worthiness in me. I don't want to bring that stuff up in here. See, if I come up in there thinking I'm so good or I'm so smart, and Lord, I pray every day, that's the hypocrites. And they got no reward. But God said, the humble one that comes to me, seeking the kingdom, that comes to me, knowing that I'm a caring, loving, kind, protecting, training Father. He said, I'll reward him openly. I'll reward him openly. I'll reward him openly. So our prayer, and I just started to think about, we call this the altar, don't we? We call this the altar. And so when people come to the altars, just studying this has caused me to rethink, because it had just become passé to have people come to the altar. But I thought about it as I was looking at this. The reason that they come to the altar is because the altar is the place of sacrifice. And so when they come to the altar, they say, I'm going to lay my life down and give it to Jesus. They were just playing it before. Oh, we can't. I give myself away. I give myself away. Where does that take place? At the altar. At the altar. At the altar. I want to look at a couple of other scriptures, because there's one particular sacrifice that God instructed the priest to do. Turn to Leviticus chapter number 1. And this sacrifice was a daily sacrifice. And I began to see this sacrifice in terms of our prayer life. So I saw my prayer time as coming to the prayer altar and making a sacrifice. Leviticus chapter number 1. And I want to just take some time to try to help you gain some understanding from the sacrifice that was called the burnt sacrifice or the burnt offering. That's how it's translated in the King James. And look at verse number 9. Verse 9 said, but his inward and his legs shall be washed in water, and the priest shall burn all on the altar. Why? To be a burnt sacrifice, it is an offering made by fire of a sweet savor or a sweet aroma unto the Lord. Let me tell you something. God is all about atmosphere. Man, I wish I could go through every scripture where it said, I think it was over 70 times, where it said that there's an offering made by fire, a sweet savor unto the Lord. Or a sweet aroma. Or something has covered up the stench. There's no self-righteousness in here. There's no sin in here. There's a sweet aroma. And see, that aroma, I believe, this aroma, I believe, puts God in the mood. That sacrifice. When you when you go over God's house and you coming in and you saying, Lord, I just thank you for being so good all the time. You're holy. You're just the perfect God. You're always doing that which is right and true and trustworthy. It puts God in the mood. It's a sweet savor. Go to verse 13. But he shall wash the inwards and the legs with water, and the priest shall bring it all and burn it upon the altar. It is a burnt sacrifice, an offering made by fire of a sweet savor unto the Lord. All right, so this is God establishing the burnt sacrifice in the law of Moses. But it doesn't start here. Let's look at where it starts. Turn to Genesis chapter number 8. For sake of time, I'm not going to. There in Leviticus chapter number 6, it establishes that the burnt offering was to be made in the morning and in the evening. Every day. Twice a day. Every day, twice a day. It was to be made in the third hour of the day and in the 9th hour of the day. Now for Israel, their day started at dawn, which is approximately 6 a.m. And so the third hour would be 9 a.m. And it was at this time that Peter and John were going to the gate called Beautiful at the hour of prayer. So anyway, they made this burnt offering, this sacrifice. And God said about this burnt offering, he said, now you do this every day. You do it twice a day, in the morning and in the evening. And he said, don't ever let the fire go out on this altar. You know, it's always supposed to be red hot. It's always supposed to be red hot. So, I'm not going to take time to go there and to read that, but I think that's important. As we think about prayer, and God says daily, that don't mean just once a day. And it also doesn't specify a length of time. You know, you look through the prayers of Jesus, Jesus prayed some very short prayers, brief prayers. All right. Do I want anything? Oh, here. Yeah, I do want to say this. It's translated burnt offering. I looked it up in the Jewish Encyclopedia. And the Hebrew word olah, that's translated burnt, they said that they get that translation from the fact that it says a sacrifice, an offering made by fire. And so that's why they call it burnt. But the word literally means what is brought up or presented to deity. So it's the offering that's brought up and presented. It's the prayer that's presented before God. All right, Genesis chapter 8, verse number 20. This is where it's established. See, a lot of people talk about the law and hey man, stuff was established before the law. Okay, here's Noah. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord. What's the purpose of the altar? Huh? Where things can be sacrificed or burnt and then brought up to the Lord. And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and he took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and he offered what? Burnt offerings on the altar. Verse 21. And the Lord smelled it. Huh? And how did it smell to him? Sweet. And then what happened? The Lord said. Do you see the offering came up? And it smelled sweet? And the Lord said. And the Lord said in his heart, ooh, look at this. I will not again curse the ground anymore for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is what? Is what? Is evil from his youth. Now, this broke me down. Because God had brought the flood, or God's wrath was released because of man's heart. And here I saw man's heart didn't change. But Noah's sacrifice, because of Noah's sacrifice, God said, I'll never do this again. Put God in the mood. Put God in the protection, forgiving, caring, teaching, training mood. He said, I'll never do this again. Let's look at one more. Turn to Genesis chapter 22. Are y'all ready for this one? Boy. So my prayer time is my time for establishing the altar where I come to make the sacrifice that changes the aroma of the atmosphere and puts God in the mood. It's irresistible to God. Genesis 22, I don't even know where to start with this. Oh. Start with verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abram and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thine only son Isaac, who you love, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering This is a challenge. Because he said, take who you love, and we can see whether that which you love has a higher place in your life than me. Verse number 3, and Abraham rose up early in the morning and saddled his ass and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son and clave the wood for the burnt offering. And rose up and went up unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here